Welcome. Everyone. I like the music.
All right.
How is everyone doing?
Hi, Simon. Hi, Roman.
Yeah, it's been a while. So thank you guys for always welcoming me back. So thank you.
That's all right. We're going to just jump into the bits and pieces. Let's do this in a different order this time. My name's Simon Leifert, Flutter Community Leader, CTO Dev Angels London. Scott's not with us. Randall, please introduce yourself.
I am Randall Schwartz. I am a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert, one of two of them on this call, but we'll let Roman figure out the other part. And I am also the question magician for this show, which means that I am watching the live chat. I will flag anything that starts with Q: as a question to us, as opposed to just a discussion you all have around yourselves. I am a full-time Flutter developer and also been at GDE for now 6 years or so. So right since the beginning of the program. And means I spend all day answering questions about Dart and Flutter everywhere.
And Roman, you might as well give us the lowdown.
Awesome. Yes. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Roman. I am a Flutter GDE. I am also lead organizer at GDG Lawrence here in Lawrence, Massachusetts. I'm also a lead Flutter engineer at Philips Health Systems and been working with Flutter ever since its inception. And again, I'm here with again two of my greatest heroes in the Flutter space. So I'm very happy to be here. Yeah.
Where? Are you hiding them? Are you hiding them with you over there?
And now Randall gets to do the other bit of the show.
Yes. Right. So again, do's and don'ts, very simple. Be nice, be respectful, be constructive. You're interacting with actual human beings through the wire here, so remember to recognize that. Don't post anything if it's adult or rude or offensive. Don't advertise or promote anything. The only people allowed to promote things are people with their face on the screen. That's the only ones that get to say this stuff. Don't spam. Don't post the same thing again and again. It's just annoying. We see everything that scrolls by. If you post a question, even worse, if you post a question and then you post the same question 25 minutes later, you've lost 25 minutes of your wait in line. We saw the first one. We're going to see the second one. We're going to get rid of the first one. So don't do that. Harassment of any kind, not tolerated. We do have ban hammers. We do use them. But do have a good time. We have a great time doing these shows. That's why we're back week after week after week. And we're here sharing our knowledge with you and love doing that. So hope you have all good time as well.
And we will mention, there we go. If you want to share code with the Q&A, then head over to gist.new, enter description, pop in a file that ends in .dart, paste your code in. You can even put comments there, put your question there, who knows, whatever else you want to put in there. And then create public gist, and then grab the URL. In the URL, grab the hash. As you can see in step 6 there, the bit in the URL that's just hexadecimal number. Pop that in the chat, and then we can go look that up and answer your question, or do a code review, or whatever you're looking for. So, but obviously, let us know. Not just the hash. Tell us why you're saying it to us, because it's also helpful. Right, that's the bit of that.
And as that is a function of GitHub, you do have to have a GitHub login for that. But who of us does not have a GitHub login these days? I mean, really.
Do you remember the day when it was like GitLab versus GitHub? Like, there's still the thing, right? But it was literally like, I don't want to go with the commercial GitHub, but then I want to go with the free and open GitLab. You know what I mean? And like you had to use their the action runners. You couldn't self-host on GitHub at one point, but you could self-host on GitLab, but now you can self-host on both.
A lot of my free software friends are angry with me over the years because I'm very pragmatic. I believe in open source. I believe you should be able to have shared projects that have multiple contributors and stuff, but I'm okay with using a commercial service when it's really sort of the best of breed for something that I need to do. And that freaks out a third of the people I know.
It's kind of interesting. I was had this conversation actually just the other day, and it was around a product that a client of ours wanted to utilize, and it was like they've got free and open source FOSS product, AGPL. They want to make changes, but they don't want to release. They have a commercial license. You have to pay for that, right? And it's like, I totally get that, because it's like the point here is that, as long as you've got the option of both, then I think any company should. That's still open source, which basically means if someone wants to not pay and use the free and open source mechanism, do all the hard work themselves, great. But if you want to like get commercial support, SLA, all the other stuff, you're going to have to pay for a license, and then you get the commercial license, and you don't have to abide by GPL in that sense. So it's a GPL, but and open source your private changes because they're under the commercial license. And I think like it's the best of both worlds.
As some of you know, I ran a show for open source software for 13 years, Floss Weekly. And I got to see maybe a dozen different viable open source funding models like that. And you really have to allow for those edges to be there in order to support that. Now, with the one we really scrambled on, the ones that were like open source only in name, there's a few companies that were doing that, and it's really annoying. You really have to be participating in your open source community for me to think that it was open source.
The problem I've got is that it's how, like, I've seen this. You see, there's so many open source projects. There's great open source software made by great developers. I'm not saying they're not. The problem is they're always almost, in my eyes, there's not many of them that are first tier above paid for products, right? Right. And the reason for that is, how can you expect people to devote the amount of time and resources necessary to develop a product for nothing? Right? Like, like they may have like a foundation behind them, and at that point, they're the ones that actually lead ahead in open source because they're being funded by sponsorship, right? Or other models of income, which still make it completely open and not commercial, and they can give it away for free because the sponsors get to utilize it in their platforms or whatever it might be, right? Now, whereas, you know, like let's put it this way, Randall. Sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but let's say you were working on an open source project. How can you devote all your time when you need to feed yourself and pay rent and everything else, right? Like, you can't devote, the developers can't, there's only so many tasks can only be broken down into so many small chunks for like open source people to contribute, right? Soon you need that maintainer, that person that really brings the whole project together and actually leads the development charge. And if, at least on small episode project, large episode, you need many people, right?
That's true. Like, and you can't just live off of coffee, because remember, there's like the buy me a coffee thing. No, you can't do that.
It has to be a lot of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? One thing that I do like view companies in a different light is those companies that they're for profit, but they do put out there like open source, like specific feature of a product or something like that. They maintain it, but they let a lot of people contribute. You see kind of see them in a different light, even though they may be making profits on another end. But that's something like kind of like altruistic on their part, like to give something to the community that they've benefited from. So
definitely. IO is coming up next week. I'm wearing my last year's IO t-shirt just to celebrate that. So it happened to be the cleanest one on the top of the stack. So
talking about IO,
yes,
does that cover Wednesday? I'm not even sure what the dates are.
Oh, it does. Yes, definitely. I'll be.
May not be doing the show next week, all depending. So we'll see what happens.
True, because 2/3 of us are going to be there.
Yeah.
So
Tuesday, Wednesday.
And it's right during the second day keynote, so it's obviously not going to be anything we can break away for.
Not. In all honesty, it's probably not going to happen in that sense. But let's see. You never know, right? Never say never, as they say, right?
Sure.
On that part, I will say that we can do some live coding today as well. We're probably going to keep it a short day because there's only a few of us. Get your questions in, people. If you want to talk about anything Flutter, Dart related, now's the time. Get your questions in with the queue in front, and like we're just going to keep rattling on and talking. Maybe we can do some live coding and see if the chat wants to pick up on that. And then if it's a slow day, then we end early. It's that simple.
Can we spend a couple minutes cross promoting the AI?
Of course. Yeah. Romain, take it away. Like, do you want to share a screen or anything? Just go right ahead.
Oh no, that's Roman's thing. You want to share? Roman?
Oh, I could share.
I could share about cross promoting Roman's.
You start first, then I do my thing.
Oh, good.
Oh, sorry. Go on. Whatever. Randall.
Which way we want to go? Which way we want to go?
Go, Roman. Go, Roman.
Okay. So again, shameless plug to, again, we've been talking about some of these, great events that are going on in Flutter. I'm going to share just, let me see if I can
pop it in the chat, in our private chat, and then I'll ping it out.
Let me know if anything. Otherwise, then I can just share the screens. But okay, perfect. Yeah, just wanted to invite everybody in the chat to attend, again, one of the largest, actually the largest Flutter conference in Latin America. Thanks to all of you. We're celebrating now our 3rd year in a row, FlutterConf Latam, this year, 2025. So again, extending the invitation to everybody. This year, remember, every year we do it in a different country. First year, we did it in Medellin, Colombia. It was a huge success. Second year, we did it in Peru. This year, we're going to do it in Ecuador, in Quito. It's going to be amazing. We have like already, slated a bunch of amazing talks and great speakers, but we want more. So make sure to grab your ticket for FlutterConf Latam 2025. This year, we're going to celebrate it in Ecuador.
Where can they get their tickets?
Yes, right now they can get the tickets. If you could just scan that QR code, you can get the early bird registration and get your tickets. Again, we still have a bunch of slots open for speakers. If you are a GDE, if you're a person, if you don't have to be a GDE, but if you're passionate about Flutter and you want to be on the big stage at FlutterConf Latam, you can definitely sign up for that. We do have talks in Spanish, but we do also have another track in English. So again, Simon, you, Randall, I keep inviting you guys. I don't know why you guys are ghosting me, but this is an amazing place for you to again, you guys are like celebrities over there. Like people talk about you like they're talking about like a famous Hollywood actor, like Simon and Randall.
They're confused. They're confused.
Yeah, but yeah. So yes, please. I just wanted to again make sure that everybody knows about FlutterConf Latam, September 9th and 8th in Ecuador, Quito. Grab your tickets. It's gonna be amazing. Yours truly, we're going to be there. We already have Flutter as one of our sponsors. We have a bunch of sponsors also jumping on board. So just wanted to, I'm going to drop the links in the chat anyway, but please scan the QR code and grab your tickets for early bird. So I hope to see everybody there. FlutterConf Latam in Ecuador. Thank you so much, guys.
The last time I was in Quito, I got to stand on all 3 equator lines.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Giant equator monument that's off, by the way.
Which is there, yeah.
And there's the little museum of the equator of Quito, and it says that the line is out the back door, and it has a line painted on the ground, and it does stupid science demonstrations right over the line that are completely bogus, but it's a lot of fun and it's just entertaining. It's like the magician's pulling the rabbit out of the hat somehow.
There
it's
you
like
go.
But my GPS said that the actual equator line was out the front door of that museum. So I've been on all 3 equators right there in Quito. Where else can you say you can do that?
There
it's
you go.
So amazing.
There you go.
That was the week I got
to go to the bluff. And cultural and education in the same place. So I invite everybody.
I could debatably come again only if somebody takes care of all the expenses, because I'm a little shy of it.
You should be able to get expenses from the GDE program, and of course the organizing team, they cover the hotels and whatnot. But yes, I mean let's talk offline, and then that'll be great to have you there, Randall. Seriously.
Sure. And I speak just enough Spanish to get me into trouble in a bar. To get me into trouble in a bar, but not enough to get me out of trouble. Okay. That's the problem. I'm at this dangerous spot.
God, you're the dangerous spot. Yeah. Good.
As long as I got a guide along with me who can translate normal stuff, it's fine. All right. Yeah, I can do something.
Just before we get totally off of this topic, no, this is a good comment here. That's why it's so important to support open source products financially where you can. I think a whole lot of Unity devs are happy that Godot is an option. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
I mean, like you got to mention that Godot, like if Unity hadn't have screwed their community at the time, I think they've reversed tack on.
They reversed. Oh, they backpedaled. Yeah,
but they completely was suddenly like that's it. They can. I can't believe they literally. Yeah, they really messed up there. And then Godot suddenly just, you know what I mean? Like find the next open source alternative comes along, find the best one, suddenly bunch of open source developers, up it comes, commercializes, better interface, better UI, like designers get on board. Like before you know it, it's kind of interesting, right? It's a completely interesting model of business practice that I don't think could have existed before the internet as it is now, if that makes sense. Like it's interesting. I was talking about something like this the other day. Like it's really interesting how, like right now, we're talking on a video call to a bunch of people around the world. Like we take it for granted now, but
yeah,
like that is just so like out of this world when you talk about like how things have been in the previous few decades, even. Right?
That's true.
Like it's only recently that this has actually become a thing, and then even before then. So it's like to have like businesses that are driven by I mean, that whole thing. Let's just take a step back here. The whole thing then when the interwebs first came out was like, oh my god, this revolutionized everything.
Yes.
Now I'm seeing that. Does that kind of make sense?
Now it's when it's like, yeah, I see what you mean.
It's taken time to get. I think it's taken a lot longer than that .com boom era of like this is going to change everything, and it did, and it has, but it's taken a bit longer to get there. I feel than was predicted at the time. But I'm seeing it now, where before, even me as a tech person was not seeing that much. Like it revolutionized industries in the specific ways, but interoperability wasn't there. There was still like that. Yes. Now we've got like the proliferation of JSON in any sort of development now. Like,
well, and think about the fact that we're now living in a post Skype world. I don't know if you realize it's probably the first show we've done since Skype went away.
Skype.
Yeah, it's gone. And that was proprietary but amazing, and then everybody else figured out how to do it and scale it and make it free for as many people as we could. And it just, I mean, it's amazing. It's revolutionary. This kind of thing 20 years ago, buying the satellite time to connect us together would have been prohibitively expensive. It's why, only the 3 commercial networks back when, if you remember that far back,
Matthew,
could do that kind of stuff.
Matthew, if you're going to watch and comment like this, you need to come on the show. Okay.
Oh yeah.
It was, and that's an interesting point. It is a really interesting point that I think it is the pandemic really did change a lot of things. It suddenly brought internet comms like this into more homes than ever before because no one could get out, right? And then also just like the revolution of just food delivery as well. That's a whole big thing that happened. And the economy's turned on its head amongst all of this stuff. But like
every delivery, I mean, I can't remember the last time I went more than like once a month to a large store. Everything I've got is coming, through the front door, at various times during the day now. And I must pass, as I'm just driving around for a couple minutes locally here, I must pass 3 or 4 trucks, FedEx or Amazon or whatever. It's like we live in this weird truck economy now, where and then I keep thinking, what if satellite navigation went down? How different would our lives be at this point? I don't want to go back to that horrors of pre-agrarian life.
And like Simon said, like how many businesses thrived and even came on during that time, and how even the work concept has been revolutionized in just the past couple of years.
Oh yeah, well, remote, and also like the fact that during the pandemic, I was able to be a presenter at GDGs all around the world, literally every part of the globe. Now I can't do that because they're meeting in person again. But it was great because they were all having virtual meetings, and I could participate and be a contributor to people all over the world. And it was just absolutely wonderful to do that. So I encourage you, GDGs out there, please keep your meetings hybrid, if not just for somebody like me, so I can come visit, but also because there are people in your region that it's a struggle perhaps to get to a physical location at a given time. So
there's another interesting point, and this came from COVID. I think that I've seen certainly from me and George have seen with Flutter London, and that has been like not just a downturn of, and it's picking back up now for sure. Like I think our last meeting we had 70 people, and then another one was like 55, 60 people. So don't get me wrong, it's picking back up. But I think the other problem is like just trying to find locations that can host. Right,
that is
and everything else, like sponsors and everything else. Whereas when it's online, that's not a problem, right? So I think there's a medium here, which is like why not do online as well as, in person? We've been discussing that kind of stuff. So,
or hybrid, like you mentioned. But when Simon finishes his 3D rendering engine and then he incorporates avatars, it's gonna be amazing, because we can just we can just all go, like, wear goggles and just be there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like that.
I just put my puppet up here. Yes, my avatar.
Definitely. I haven't yet seen the compatibility of Flutter GPU on Windows yet. Until that happens, I'm not going to be.
That's a whole topic right there. Flutter GPU.
Yeah.
Right. And we mentioned FlutterCon in passing, FlutterCon USA. I just want to make sure that everybody knew that I am going to be there. It's all confirmed. I've got everything all paid for. Everything is great. So I am presenting a talk on Flutter best practices for exceptions. Ooh.
Wow. And none other than you, which, you've actually have a couple of videos out there on that. So I think that's really good. Yeah. I'm going to be talking on
that for like the last 2 months. Yes.
I'm going to be doing something related to Rife. And I know a couple of the folks who have joined, they've already dropped some messages, but Rife as not only this animation framework, but also as like a graphics format that you can consume in your applications moving forward. Is like revolutionizing the industry. So that's something that, again, you won't see it on a YouTube video. You won't see it anywhere. This is like a unique talk that I have for you guys. So I hope to see everybody there as well.
Nice. And we'll also be doing, me and Roman will be doing
thank you. Of course. Go ahead. You do it. Yeah, say it.
A roundtable discussion on like UI in Flutter, shall we say. There's animations and things like that where we can, I think we're doing a whole sort of like unconference would be like kind of a kind word for it, but like that kind of what we want people that are visiting FlutterCon to join these groups, voice their opinions about these things, and we can come to a community consensus about how best to approach these topics. And maybe there's some output from this that can help everyone around the table, right? So everyone brings their own viewpoint, and we did it before at T3, and it was a massive success. I think it was really good. I was involved in that, so yeah, I can't wait to bring this to the Flutter community as well. Like,
totally. And like you said, Simon, like it'd be great when action items come out of these discussions and giving a voice to the community. I think those are one of the best sessions out there. So I hope everybody.
Not to mention Jin Lee will be there talking about his NTP stuff, and then also Callie will be there talking about JS Interrupt. There you go.
Oh yeah. We met last year also. Hi, how you doing, Kaylee? Yeah.
We if you're going to be there, let us know in the chat, and we'll promote your name. It's all good there. The other thing I wanted to bring up was about the AI circle stuff. So that's a parallel track to what we're doing here, right here on this very channel, though. Under a separate playlist if you want just those videos. We're doing vibe coding and discussing, let's see, about 2 different programs. There's vibe coding programs that Norbert's running, and then we also are doing just AI and agentic AI in particular, talking about various tools. Like my particular tool is Roo Code, which is inside VS Code, using the Gemini 2.5 Flash, Gemini 2.5 Pro models to basically I'm directing the machine to go write some code for me, but that doesn't take away that it's about as smart as an intern. So you need to like dial down your expectations of how much good code it can generate in a given time. So that's something to keep in mind. Vibe code is not going to replace us for at least a while. It's still, you've got to have the artistic direction. You've got to understand if you're digging yourself a hole over here. And that is only from our history of however many months or years or decades we've been programming. And so, but I found it to be a really pleasant experience when I could give it like a basic strategy. And then I would say, now make a detailed task specification from this. And that was my strategy that worked really well, by the way. We'll be talking about this in the AI channel, but as long as we're still kind of plodding along here, we got one question in, so I'm waiting for the second question. So what I figured out to do was to start with a PRD, start with a requirement specification. And I put in like the top paragraph of it, and it filled it all out. The rest, then I tweaked it a few more times. Sometimes I tweaked it by asking the AI to, like, I have this thought, how does that get manifest in here? And it would figure out where to put that. But then the next step, and this is the very useful step, I had it take that document and turn it into a plan.md. And it generated 8 wonderful steps that I could go through. And I said, make sure we have a runnable code and testable code at every one of your steps. And it did. It generated this plan and it generated tests as it was going along. But the way I did it is I would say, first, let's do step 1. And it would do that. And then I would actually go back and ask, now that you've done step 1, is there anything in the remaining steps that has to be changed? And it would go back and update the remaining steps based on what it had observed from step 1. It was remarkable. It was like working with a very talented intern. And I think I'm going to keep recommending this sort of strategy of having a PRD that it can always refer to, plus a testing or a development plan that keeps getting refocused as the project continues. Because I think we're getting, I think it's as much context as you can give it, the better it is, especially with the Gemini models. I mean, 1 million tokens is just, you can't burn through all that. It's pretty amazing.
Have you tried Chris Sell's latest package, the Dartantic AI? I think it's pretty compelling. I don't know if maybe Simon can drop the link in there. I'll drop it in the chat, but it's a pretty cool. Yeah, I'll drop it in the chat.
I saw a few tweets around it.
And if you see how, for example, his idea is pretty good. And imagine how if you could simplify creating agents powered by Gemini or any large language models, and you can incorporate it in your apps much easily. It's amazing. And I'm gonna try that one because I'm building something for one of the apps that I'm building, and I wanted to create like a chat, but not just your regular chat. No, I want to create like custom like widget components that the LLMs can reply back to me, and I can render it right in place. Like, for example, you're like on an airline Flutter application, and then you say, I want my ticket, this day, this airline, blah, blah, blah. And then instead of being like a boring text field, right back to you, imagine you can render like an animated airline ticket, and then it's like pretty cool and very nicely formatted. And you can do that by for example, like using this type of packages, which is pretty good.
I mean, it's one of those things. I think I don't know if I think it's to get back to the show on Monday, but that system prompts, right? There's no
system prompts, exactly. Yeah, system prompts.
But you can just tell the AI, I want you to reply from now on. I want you to reply and everything.
Yeah, from now on, moving forward, like this.
You can only reply in these 3 event types.
Yes.
When you have these things, these are the things, and then you can literally dictate how it should communicate back to you. Then you can then have code that interprets that response as JSON, reads out the events, and actually performs actions.
But the way that he made it, like, of course, you could do all that yourself. But imagine if you just have remove one extra step out of that, because you can already tell the LLM to reply with it in a given schema, and then you can just parse it right away. You're good to go. I love that.
So we had a new beta drop of Dart and Flutter just the last couple of days. So I presume they're getting ready for perhaps a large release next week. I wonder why. How can we possibly predict something like that, except that it's every year, right ahead of Google I/O they release another version of Flutter. I imagine there's going to be a lot of discussion. I think Gemini is going to be every 3rd word at I/O this year. I'm pretty sure.
How many times was it last year? 121 times they mentioned AI.
It was AI, but I think it's going to be specifically the branding now. I think it's going to be Gemini, Gemini that, and Gemini this,
Gemini that. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So if you're doing the drinking game at home, be sure you have a soft place to fall when you're done. It's going to be pretty insane. I'm looking forward to that. We do have a few questions if we want to go ahead and start doing questions here.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Why does a widget have shadow elevation when put in a list view?
I was about to say,
with the device.
It literally sounded like you were starting a joke there. Why did the widget cross the road? Come
on. To get to the other spline. Yes. All right.
Right, go on.
Burn.
So why does the widget?
worse that yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I interrupted once.
Yeah. You interrupted with actual show talk. That's bad. We were joking. Extends it.
Why does the list view extend the width of the device in the first place? Like, is this on purpose? Because you usually want to contain things.
So first of all, there's no magical shadow that an elevation that's put on a list view when it extends the width of the device.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're seeing that. So I think the question is, what is the elements that you're putting inside of the list view?
Yeah, that's
so come back to us with that, and then maybe we can discuss it further. It may be a case that material 3, blah blah blah, when it does match, it adds a drop shadow to a list item. But if you're using list tile, if you're using list tile, that is material list tile, right? Which means it will have that kind of behaviors potentially. We can go look at that in a minute, but for sure, there's no default.
Yeah, you could put that in a pin, put a pin on that, and maybe we could try it in live. Like, we could try that, but I don't think this should be like a major issue. If it's like a regular list style item, like, it shouldn't have that weird behavior with like, if you do it like how big is the elevation? Is it getting clipped? Is it getting like expanding outside of the realms of the list view? I don't know.
There's an interesting thing actually that can occur. Actually, this behavior that he might be seeing might actually be unrelated. Now, I think I just occurred to me what I think might be happening here. If he's got materials below the list view and not materials in his list, in his items in his list, then the shadows, but any of the items that need shadows will be rendered to the material behind.
Yeah.
So you might be getting some weird behavior there where you've got like weird ink / behaviors. I've seen that before. Maybe Babbage, you can post some code, do just.new, as we said at the beginning, and post something, and we can maybe take a look at it.
Yep.
All right. Next question. And this is more for live cutting. If we do live cutting, I skipped over this. Sorry, Lane. I wasn't looking at my screen very well. Can you show an example of MVVM in Flutter using built-in state management solutions?
We were doing this last week, weren't we? And we kind of like got a bit off of MVVM.
What were you using?
Yeah, we weren't using any sort of magical thing. It was all built-in stuff.
No, but I mean, what were you using? Like, I wasn't here. I would just want to know, what were you using? Built-in, no packages whatsoever.
Yeah, this is whatever comes out of Flutter. So this was just like, inherited widget for looking things up.
Inherited widgets. How about like valuable listener, valuable notify, value notify, value.
I don't think we completed it, did we? I can't remember where we got to. No. Kind of started doing like a little presentory thing. Yeah, maybe we can look at that some more.
Okay, I'll keep that in the list then. All right, moving on. P1, which I think means there's part 1. There's also a part 2. Yep, just shortly after this. Using Flutter as a module in a native app. When run from the native side, hot reload restart doesn't work. Of course. I say of course because I kind of know what's going on there. But running standalone fails due to platform channels in the Flutter module needing native context. So in other words, how do you debug that? But I mean, you don't get hot reload, but you can get other things. You still can debug it.
And I've actually worked on, I'm actually working at work on an existing legacy Android application that we're building a Flutter module. And then when you embed it into the Android one, you don't get hot reload, because what we actually have is like, we created this Flutter module, kind of like a standalone wrapper around it. That way we can debug into it. And then when we deploy it, it just adds the module into the native application and then just builds it as a whole thing. But I wanted to see the part 2 of this question.
It's unrelated.
Oh, okay.
It's just the same person asking another question. Well, let's see if part 2.
So hey, go back to part 1.
Okay.
So this is more about when you run when you're running your main Flutter native app, you can do Flutter attach and attach to the existing running native app, and then you'll get your hot reload and hot restart and everything.
Natively, the Flutter module as a native application. Yes, you can.
No. So what I'm reading here is basically what they're saying is that they're building, like, let's say, add to app, right? So they've got an Android app,
of course,
and they have a Flutter module. When they run their Android application, it's the same as when you just run a Flutter application. No different. The difference is when it's booting up with Flutter, it passes in the observatory information, so it can backlink out to allow the debug connection. So all you need to do is run Flutter attach on the command line, and you can attach the existing running Flutter module inside of your Android application. And then you can debug it, hot reload, hot restart. You shouldn't have a problem there. And the difference, I will be clear, and this happens all the time, and it's happened since day one of Flutter. And it's actually I think it's not really being communicated enough to the community. So I will cover this use case. When you first start your Android application, it compiles in your code at that point in time, and it gets shipped inside your Android application to your device. Then when you hot reload, you edit your Dart code, you hot reload, hot restart, and it gets shipped over a network connection. It does not update the saved one that's inside your Android application. What it's doing is updating what's running at that time, which means if your Android application gets shut down and started back up again, it will start with the original one, not the latest hot reloaded one. And this might be your problem as well, because you may be doing some like shutting down activities and doing some Android stuff, in which case it goes back to being the one that was not hot reloaded. Does that kind of make sense? It goes back to the one that you shipped it with, built it with.
But you see, because the Flutter module, once it's inside of the Android application, you can access, for example, like all the platform channels and all of the capabilities. But he's saying like the running standalone, because of the need of the platform channels. You see, like the context.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. He has to run it as an Android application. Right, because if he runs it standalone, it'll fail due to the platform.
Of course. So this is obvious. That's what I'm saying. I wanted to see the second part. Like, but
oh, sorry. Yeah. Anyway, let's just see the second part. So we jumped the gun here.
I don't know that this is the same.
Generating Android and iOS folders which doesn't contain plugin permissions and config. How can I use hot reload smoothly? Well, we just said that. So there you go. We just answered it. You don't need to do some separate thing. You don't need to do anything like that. Just you can run it as part of your Android project, but it's Flutter attached you need to do. And as I said, the key is, what you will need to do is once you've got that to a point, and if you need to do some things like shutting down that activity or shutting down the app and reloading it, whatever it might be, that may reset your Dart state, because the Dart environment gets shut down and reloaded back with the initial compiled state of the Dart snapshot. So you need to shut down the app, rebuild it fresh, and then you can test. You still do Flutter attach and debug it, but then at that point you need to you'll get that new state, right? If you do any hot reloads, it's the same problem. So this is the same thing when you're doing Flutter plugin development and you're trying to use that same thing. You have to do the same when you shut it down and start back up again. It's always bugged me, because I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be able to, anything ship over the wire can't be saved. And then when the app starts up again, it used the saved one. I never quite got why this bug exists. Maybe no one's raised this as a bug. I'll be honest with you, that could be the case, that everyone's just living with it.
Yeah, everybody's just powering through. Yeah. But what I like about
this is the problem. I was saying to someone the other day, the problem I've got with Flutter right now is one of, I can't put myself back in the position where I don't know all the workarounds and the ways of dealing with it and all that kind of stuff, right? Like you learn to live with it, right? So I really want to hear back from the new people and saying, what are your pain points? Like, what is it that got you confused or like difficult to work with? And those should be the priorities to fix, right? So like this, if this is something that the Flutter team haven't already known about, then should definitely get this one on the list, because it's super. I can't see how it would be really difficult, because instead of loading it from a resource, they load it from disk. I mean, like.
And you know what? If they fix that, actually, that will motivate even more companies and more applications to be migrated to Flutter little by little, using the add-to-app approach. What I do like is how in an Android activity, the Flutter engine can be cached, and then you don't have to be reinitializing it all the time. And immediately when you come back to it, there it is. Flutter's just like right where you left it at that same spot. That's pretty cool too.
The other one is you can now share there's a shared domain now, so you can start multiple multiple environments. I'm trying to remember what the host environment calls it now. Not I feel like I need to load up the Android host environment can host multiple Dart environments,
yes,
but they
yes, you
share
can.
the same Flutter. So multiple Flutter engine instances,
multiple
share the same
Flutter engines, exactly. Yep.
So and you get the same like Dart cache and everything else, and all the other benefits, but you can have like multiple Flutter views and all.
And I love how, like, even from the Flutter engine, once you have a reference to it, you can even trigger routes internally. It's pretty cool. Like, once you get into the weeds of that, there's a lot you can do with it.
Yeah. I think what was it? They're doing, so they were working on, so the Flutter team had been working on desktop, which is multi-window.
Multi-window,
right?
Yes.
So we call it desktop. You can always build on desktop. Desktop is not, but the problem is you're building into one window, right? The same as an Electron app, same as all these other
Electron, all of them, right? They still have that.
And the reason for this is they control the rendering surface. They're not natively integrated with the platform, which is the hard bit because it's different from each platform. And you need to work the best way of doing that. So right now, the Canonical,
the Ubuntu guys,
the Ubuntu developers have been working with the Flutter team on building multi-window Flutter because they're using Flutter as one of their main development engines for new UI based applications on Ubuntu, which I think is fabulous because it just fast tracks development. And if you've got it native in your desktop environment, it's like boom, like easy.
Yeah, the installation wizard in Ubuntu is actually based on Flutter.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. It really is, and it's a really good piece of code. Now I think like you get back to like what we're just talking about in terms of add to app and having multiple Flutter instances running. I'm hoping that we might get to the point where inside of Flutter, at the moment inside Flutter, you do view.of and you get the view. That is the portion of display that your UI, your hierarchy of widgets is being displayed within. And the idea for that was to support multi-window. So you can have one hierarchy of widgets that has multiple views within it, that has multiple widgets in each view. And that shows each of your panels or each of your windows or whatever you want to call it on your UI surface for your operating system. And I think it'd be really nice to take, they could take advantage of that in an Android sense. If you've got multiple views or multiple activities, that kind of thing, like multiple fragments and doing your animations in a native application, you can have multiple view surfaces for Flutter.
Wow, that would be very cool.
That would be so much more like that would really improve the add to app experience a lot. All right, I'll shut up. Sorry, kind of off track.
Awesome.
Next question. Building an app, but my client is struggling to install Flutter and test it. I was thinking of Docker.
Wait, what?
It up.
Hey,
what are they building?
No. Slow down here. We have the very first sentence.
Yes.
Building an app, but my client is struggling to install Flutter. They do not install Flutter to test it. Why is your client, that is your customer, I'm assuming you mean, that you're...
No, they don't need to install Flutter. That's true. They don't need to install Flutter. But I'm like, what are they building? A Flutter web app?
Well, no, but no matter what it is, right? Like the point here is they should not be installing Flutter to test it.
No,
right?
no, that's first thing, of course not at all. They don't need, it's not like Flash. Like you needed to have Flash to see like a Flash application.
I think so. You should not have to get them to install Docker or any tooling whatsoever. You build your app and they run it. That's a Flutter web app.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. See, I immediately assumed that it was a Flutter web app. So I made assumptions by reading
online. Why are they trying to build and install and test it?
You publish
you just deploy it. You can even build it right, into WASM or Canvas Kit, and they should be able to see it on any browser. So
Flutter web build.
What are they? Yeah,
take the build folder. Publish it to, in fact, you can just do Firebase hosting or a Google Cloud Bucket or
a GitHub page. You can put it on a GitHub page. Yeah. But I mean, he's mentioning like a Docker.
It's not hosted, it's local. Okay.
You got to get it.
Okay, slow down. That's so you want to run a Flutter web app locally. That's still the same. You do Flutter build, you do Flutter web build. You take the build, you take the build web directory, zip it up, and send it to them. Now they can't run that.
But they need to have a web server then if they want to run it locally.
Well, no, they don't. It depends on how you built it, right, and how it works.
Yeah, but you said zip the build folder. Go ahead.
Yeah. But you can actually do that and run index.html and it'll run all the JavaScript code.
Oh yeah, of course.
It depends on how you've built your routing as to if it's going to direct the URLs correctly, right, in the browser. So if you do internal routing inside Flutter, it will just work, right? If it's just client only, you're doing HTTP like it'll just work. If you need some sort of native platform stuff from your Flutter web, then as you said, it needs to be hosted. Flutter web does not require to be hosted to run, right? However, if you do need to do routing like that, so you can type in your URL localhost / I don't know, contact us or whatever, and it goes to direct to the right thing on the website, then you need a little web server. And you can build that in Dart. So you can just build a little Dart binary.
Yeah, but see, now you're adding more dependencies. Like you can just locally just run the package. Yeah.
Well, you can locally run the package.
Yeah, you just said zip up the build. You do Flutter build web. You can send them that zip, and they can run it locally.
No, let me be clear. I haven't finished. So inside of your project, you create a directory called tool. This is the Dart tools directory. It's just tool though, no S. And inside that, you can start a Dart file. That Dart file can be compiled separate to your project, but still depend on the pub/spec dependencies. And then inside of that Dart file, you can literally just have void main, HTTP server, run local with the static host dropping everything from the local directory. That is obviously it's about 10 lines. It's in the example of like the Dart IO package, I think it is for HTTP server. You can even use shelf static, and it will just do it literally. It's like shelf static package and just drop 3 lines, and you've got a whole server. Do that. And have every request direct that it's not found direct to index.html. Build it as an exe file or Mac.
See, now you're over engineering it. But
no, because then you just chuck that in your build directory and ship that to them, right? So they just double click on it, and that's it. They've got the app running locally.
But how about this? They haven't paid yet. You don't want to send them anything.
Yeah. Well, that's it, right?
Like I like the port forwarding approach. Or there's a way that you can like run it from your end and send them like a link and they can view it. What's this service? I forgot what it is.
This is another option you can do. You can do tunneling.
Yes,
so there's things like ngrok, Cloudflare tunnel, like other services, which basically, but that means your machine needs to stay running with that server running locally for them to host it. You can't take it down because they need to use it. So if it's just for them to proof something for like half an hour, fine. If they want to have
Firebase,
Firebase, yeah.
Firebase hosting has a free tier.
Andy, ngrok. That's what I was referring to. It's ngrok. Use an ngrok and then you do it.
Ngrok.
That's what I said. Ngrok, right?
Ways. This is solved problem. We've been solving this long before Flutter.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like ngrok and Cloudflare tunnel is the same thing. It's basically just different providers, right?
Right.
But the point here of reverse proxying like that is just to solve this problem that you can just quickly host something and it's done, right? And under SSL as well. So
so you see, like it's just like I thought like, okay, it's a client. I don't want to send them anything yet. I'd rather send them like a link and they can view it. So I like the approach.
It all depends on like so normally if you're building a Flutter, here's the thing, Solomon. Are you using Flutter Web to build an app that's going to run locally on their machines, or would it eventually be hosted? Because if it eventually be hosted, just fucking host it on a private. Just host it on a private. Host the Firebase hosting, job done, right?
Yeah.
If it's just to always just locally run on their machine, then I would be building it for desktop and not building it for web. Full stop.
I would too. Yeah.
Right. Ship them you do desktop build and ship them the output. Done. Like do that. Right. Yes. So
I love how also like Firebase and of course actually Flutter has like already PWA capabilities, and you can just view it on a browser and then say install, and then it kind of gives you this like PWA progressive web app desktop looking experience. That's also good.
Yep. Anyway, okay, that was the last question before live coding. So we can keep waiting. It's 5 minutes to the top of the hour. I don't know how soon everybody
has do a bit of live coding and see how we go.
5 minutes of live coding. Can you do something in 5 minutes? It takes you 5 minutes to warm up your IDE sometimes.
That's nothing for Simon. Like he lives on the edge, man. I'm telling you.
Right. I'm sure he does.
So someone said, please share some material. I mean, for which? The problem here is there's a delay on our chat. So you need to provide context whenever you ask something. Please remember that.
Yes.
So
I think this is the person. This is how do you do Flutter hosting for web? That's
my point. Like
Flutter.
Here's the example. I'll bring up the screen as well. Why not? Of the sharing that I was just talking about, like the hosting, right? And then you can decide how you want to handle. So I'm going to bring this up anyway. Like this, that works, and then we'll get rid of that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So look, shelf static. You just add like. Here you go, people. There you go. You got a local web server hosting files. Done.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Just stick that in a tool directory, and then you've got your. Then you build that tool with Dart build, and then you just put the output binary file, the exe file, into your build directory, and then just change this to just dot. Just put a dot there instead, right? Which would be the current directory, and then ship it with your web directory, web build directory. Right. Hopefully that helps. We've already answered this, Daniel.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. Daniel already did like a bunch of screens, so you joined late. But anyway, let's repeat it. FlutterConf Latam, September 9 and 10, Ecuador. We're gonna be there, so I hope everybody joins.
Oh, when and where is it? Go rewind the show. It's straight.
Go rewind the show.
Yes.
That's
yeah. Also promotion there. So
feel free to pop your questions in the chat. Well, we go live code. So I mean, we did this. I kind of half of me just doesn't want to continue this because it's just like. And we just changed this to like this is just a model.
What do we?
I mean, strictly
IO. Maybe we should just talk about that for a few minutes. What do we expect at IO? Gemini something.
Sure. Let's
I'm gonna have a great time. Last year.
Do we have is Rodrigo Castro still here? He came on the show last week and asked us for some live coding. Who can we see who's in the can't see who's in the audience. Well, if you're here, speak up and we'll try some of your questions.
Raise the house lights. Raise the house lights.
Exactly right.
See who's in the audience.
What was this? I think you wrote this one, Randall, last time. Possible live coding. If we don't just continue last week's, watch changes in the SQLite database and keep up to date on the screen.
Oh yeah, I remember that question.
So you can use a feature.
It's going to take more than 5 minutes, though. That's going to take.
Yeah, well, we could.
That's not a 5 minute. That's not a 5 minute.
We could go for a little bit longer.
Maybe if you use AI, you can get it done in 5 minutes.
Semantics. Oh, did we just start
prompts?
Put dates behind these things because I've got some.
Yeah.
There was actually something I wanted to do around cooperative auto sizing of text. We actually started that, and I don't remember which one it was in. It was like a bottom nav bar which had like icon text. You remember that one?
Vaguely.
Well, bottom app bar is mentioned in here.
You realize these shows are always in the morning after my karaoke, so I've always been a little bit fuzzy on every single time I'm here. Actually, it's no longer. I can't count that anymore.
I think this was it. Actually, we actually finished this. Yeah, no, this was it. This was it, and I didn't finish it. I don't think.
Oh,
scale to the. No, I did. Scale together the host. Must have
done. Oh, here.
No, I did finish it.
Remember a question about preserving scroll position after adding items on top of a list view. Did you end up answering that one? I don't think we
did do a bit, but I don't think we got to finish it. It was the news one, right? We had like we could do a little something on that. I gotta remember which one it is though.
Sort your files by modification date.
No, this is it. This is it because it wasn't on the previous one.
All right.
So we had news. I remember this because we added localizations to it because that was another question.
Yes.
500 news posts. Yeah, this was it. Do I want to simplify this? 16th. Oh, 16th. Oh, this is later. Oh, look at that. It's in 2 files. So this is the first one. Here's the simplified one. which we could continue on with, which was the feed, and we wanted to keep the scroll position, and we had a play pause. Yeah, let's do this. This is a good.
Okay.
So I'll start another file, Humpday, and what's today? 2025.
Put a date in there. It's 2025, 05/14.
Yeah, let's start off with this one. So for those that are not sure, this was the original question we put in here. How would you guys implement a feed scroll that would retain its current scroll offset after inserting new items at the beginning of the list? Now, this is one of those things that's actually more complicated than it initially sounds. And I do fear it is one of those things that really kind of bugs me that it's not built into Flutter. And it's one that most people don't get right. So let's talk about this in brief. And then whilst this is doing this, and then we will, oh, no, not desktop.
It's that you don't have an implicit mapping of items to pixel counts inherently. So you end up having to do that work yourself.
So for the so let's just talk about. I'll briefly walk through the code. So we've got the material app. We have this notion of a feed repository, something on the back, and we just change notify so we can monitor it. We add 50 posts in the beginning, and then when we can either add posts manually, but when we hit start, it puts an auto post cycle in and starts adding posts. And this is just us, a little testing framework that we can just test. Pardon me, the feed coming in and how it updates. On the home screen, we just have a scaffold with like news feed, with a play pause button, and when you press that, it starts and stops the feed depending on when it toggles.
Do you add keys to each item? That way you can reference like their position and their and oh, there it is. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's right. The first thing I was gonna ask. Okay, I'll let you finish.
Now the thing is not, it's not really the problem is the key is great. Don't get me wrong, that helps a lot, but it's not really what the solution is. So here we are here. We're stacked from the bottom at the moment, and this was us showing that when you stack from the bottom, oh look, it's not, even when I scroll, it's not moving. And this is because the index, the scroll index of where I'm scrolling to, this is the top left of this viewport, is actually relative to the bottom of the view of the content, because it's stacking from bottom. So even though this is 0, so when the scroll offset is 0, it's actually talking about this position here. And as I scroll, that's like 200 pixels off the bottom of the screen. That's how, when you do reverse true on your list, wherever the hell that is, I think it's up here, reverse true, that's what you're doing, which means right now it's adding items, but because I'm not scrolled past that point, they're not going to affect my scroll offset. Now, as I scroll up, I can drag and see the new items, right, as they're coming in. If I leave it, I can drag some more, and there's more items, right?
Are you assuming that all of the items have the same height?
No, that's not what I would ever do, but you could do that to help in somewhat, but it's still a case of, this is more about, tell you what we're trying to replicate here is Twitter newsfeed would be the best thing.
Exactly. And then that way, yeah, because otherwise, if you constrain it to a given height, then you lose some flexibility, but at least you have some like predictive calculations and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I put this to a card, if I can, and we'll give it some. And then and then we'll give it more space. Right. And then on the card, just want to kind of like give it some sort of.
I was going to say, are you going to do the elevation thing? Just the
shadow.
The shadow. Yeah.
And a bleeding card.
Yeah, the bleeding card. Yeah.
Or would you say blooming card? I guess that would work too, right? Yeah. How many idioms can I bring into a conversation?
Let's just actually look at it.
I mean, that's my only job as a sidekick is to keep interjecting stuff like that. So hopefully I'm doing a good job of that.
Yeah, like a use case, like they dropped in the chat, like, it could be like a two-way infinite scroll. It could be like a order system, like orders come in and then you see them come in at the top.
So this is, I just wanted to kind of give us some sort of relatively viewable panel. And what we'll do, I'm actually going to add, actually do, what's it from LTRB? So left 12, top 12, top. Just want to give us a bit more room here just to work with. In fact, I'll do it here.
Seems like you could design something like this if you sort of started over with the assumptions about what you're doing and not do it in terms of item number, but in terms of positions or something.
Well, correct. So that sorry, I wasn't not being facetious. Sorry. That is exactly where we're trying to go with this, right? So let's
good. I'm not as dumb as I look.
so we're going to stack from the top. And we started looking at this before. So when you scroll, what we're actually doing, and we're going to do this, I'll show you how this works. If we override scroll controller, you like this. We'll call it custom scroll controller.
Except isn't there already a custom scroll thing? So it'll get better.
And we want a custom scroll position. These are the magical functions that you need. You need to override these two functions. There's a lot you can do with just overriding these two functions, right?
Wow.
Sorry, two classes. So we're just going to expand these with a bit more. So bear with me. Make sure I'm in everything that's required.
Super physics. Physics to the nth degree. Super physics.
And then what we're going to do is return a custom scroll position rather than the one. So the default one just does cause the normal constructor, right? So this is what we're doing. We're just like injecting ourselves into this pairing of the two classes. So we can return back a custom one, and then we can then customize the behavior of scroll pretty much any way we want.
What's the Gang of Four name for this? Just kidding. I think Gang of Four is way overrated. You just code, man. Code, people. That's all you need. You don't need
code, man. It's just code. Like, dude.
Figure out how it works. Whenever I get asked an interview question, it's related to Gang of Four, I just go, "Oh, I don't want to work here. I don't want to work here." This already tells me enough of what I don't need to know about the management here.
So I'm just gonna like super these across. Super.
Now I'm gonna get responses from everybody who thinks, but I've spent a lot of time learning, MVVM and Gang of Four, and I go, good that you learned that. But meanwhile, I was coding.
All right, that's enough setup on that. So now we have a custom scroll controller. We can now create one of these, and we'll use it on our list view, right? So up here, we'll say final controller, and officially we're going to do that. Because we own the controller, we should also dispose of the controller.
Yes, indeed.
If your controller's like constructed depends on something from like a state, then what you would do is do like this, where you match them up. I kind of like doing this anyway because it feels like it reads better to me when I look at init state. This is where I construct something, and then on the on the dispose where I clean it up, and these match up, and to me it reads a bit nicer. But it's basically the same thing. The nice thing is when you put it in here, now you can depend on other things from your state or from anywhere else in your up here. This is the initial. When you construct something like this is getting constructed when the home screen state constructor gets initialized, right? So this is the same as doing this. Yeah. So if I put final feed, watch this, you'll see this. I'm gonna do this. For those that don't realize, this is how it works. There you go. That is exactly the same as what I had before. Okay. Basically, this means that when the constructor runs, it runs the initializers, which construct all of the objects that are final within the class, right?
You kind of manually did it. Otherwise, it would have already,
and by us, all we're doing by putting it down here like this is saying, do that automatically for me. And all it's doing is moving that line. It's doing it at the same time. It runs those initializers during the class initialization, right? And then, so I just want to explain that people don't know this. It does mean that what you can do, and you'll see this in some widgets, is they pass something over here from the widget. So there might be some parameter that you're passing in to your widget, and you pass it over to the state, and then the state gets to use it in its initializers in here, right? As long as it's passed in the constructor, right? So, for example, let's say home screen had like, I don't know, an index variable. It could pass that index over in here. And then our scroll controller, I don't know, say custom scroll controller, can use that as its like initial scroll position or something, right? Or whatever we're trying to do, right? I'm just giving you like an example of, oh yeah, type double, sure. Of where you can kind of like use those variables to initialize. But anyway, that's not.
Oh wait, so I thought the offset is just a single value, not like an.
Oh
offset.
yeah, no, I was sorry. No, it is. I was just trying to show how you can.
Oh, okay, got it. Sorry.
Constructors. Most people don't realize you can do that. So anyway, back to a kind of a nice and maybe a nicer way, as I said, to do it like this, where you've got we just initialize in a net state, dispose, and it kind of keeps it nice and clean. Anyway, right. So now we've got a custom scroll controller. We need to pass that over to our list view builder. This is where I was going with this before, and that's why I set these up. Those are actually useless. Right. Okay. So now we've got a custom scroll control. We can do a few neat little tricks. So let's restart the app we have. Okay. Same as before. Nothing's changed. Good. This is what I like to see. It did not crash. It did not break. It compiled. I think it compiled. Yes. Where's my thing? Yeah, it did. Okay, cool. So now what we can do is we can set up a couple of interesting things. So inside our scroll position, it returns back, it implements, should I say, scroll metrics, this one here. And scroll metrics is how the content knows what the minimum extent of scroll is and what the maximum is. It's also what tracks what the scroll position is, which is in pixels, and are we ready to like deal with scrolling, which is the content dimension. So the viewport dimension is the height of this scrolling panel, the widget on the screen. That's the view. That would be the height of the list view,
like the viewport, yeah. And
then the content is the height of all of the content with inside that viewport, right? Now you may not have that up front. Like there's yeah, you don't have to have that up front. And then the pixels is the position within that scrolling panel, as it were. And then you've got the axis and a bunch of other stuff. And there's some helpers here to determine if you're at the end or before or whatever's going on there. Right. So let's go back to here. This is what this means. We go back to our custom one, is we can say, man.
So this means, sorry, Simon. So this means you cannot use list view builder. You have to use a regular list view, right? Because items, the items you want to know, for example, like how many items you have in total, as opposed to okay, I'm
No,
thinking about like how the items
I'm
get virtualized, how they get generated as soon as they come into the viewport.
We'll get there in a minute.
Okay.
Okay. So what I've done now, as I've told it, we have infinite bounds. You can go as much as you want.
Yeah.
Now what's going to happen?
This is actually a red screen in Flutter. So yeah.
now when I scroll up, look what happens.
Whoa.
No overscroll. I can scroll as far as I want into the negative, and it's fine.
Wow. This
in negative space.
Negative space. This is not possible.
Yes.
It's not in regular scenario.
No, it is. And if I now go into the builder now, I think this is where we were talking about where this doesn't work. So we've got a limited item count here. So if I go down, we put 50 in at the initial count, and look, there's 49, and look, I can go positive past that. There's no limit, right? Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we need to impose a limit, right? That's not what I'm saying, but I'm just giving this example of the items in the scroll. Yes, they impact the thing, but there's a relationship there that we get to determine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when we want to customize how we want to display these items, and the notion here is a bit more complicated, because it's one of, when we are, let's say we're here in the list, we want to be able to add items to the top of the list, but not change the pixel offset, right? Does that make sense? So a pixel offset always has to have a relative point that you're scrolling from. So what we could do, and this is the interesting bit, is when we scroll and then we let go, we can say that the closest one to the top, the closest child to the top left corner is our 0, origin. So at this point in time, it'd be 17. I scroll and it becomes 14. I scroll and it becomes 11. What this means is when you're not scrolling, the origin is always going to be that point. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a trick here, right? Now, your scroll pixel offset for your scroll list is going to be the amount that's different from the first one, and it's so here it would be negative 20, here it would be 0, here it would be negative 40, and so on. Like it will be relative to that item that's at 0, 0. Does that make sense? This way, when you add items, what you're not doing is changing the pixel offset, because it's always relative to that item.
Mm-hmm.
This is the key. Okay. So let's see. I've been meaning to do like a simple example of this. We'll see what we can do. Are people interested in this? Is this remotely interesting? Give your feedback in the chat.
I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes.
Right. So we can bring. I'm half me is hesitant to use the scroll concepts that are inside Flutter, because we don't need to use them, and it overcomplicates building this. So, like, we've got a choice. We can try and sort of get this kind of like working within like the scrolling system of Flutter, but what are we gaining from that? And that's kind of where we need to keep going. So, first of all, we're going to deconstruct this a bit further, and then we're going to see what we can if we can get this into the way scrolling works on Flutter. And if it can't, then we'll kind of bring it out into its own little widget, and I'll show you how we do that. So yeah, we can do this within the hour. Let's see what we get to.
See if you could get
let's see where we get to. We could do this. You could do this.
Go for it. Go for it.
Custom
full speed ahead.
So first of all, custom scroll view. And then inside that, we're going to have a sliver. No, I don't want to do this. I tell a lie. I have lied. What we want is to go even further. We want a scrollable. So I'm going to take this builder out, and we'll bring this back in a second. So for those that don't know, every scrolling view is a scrollable. Right? It is like custom scroll view, list view, single child scroll view, all the things.
Single child scroll view.
Scrollable is the thing, and it has a viewport builder. So what scrollable does, it is the widget that controls essentially, thank you. It controls the offset of scroll. Basically, the scrollable's job is to control the scroll controller and scroll position and work that bit with the mouse movements. That's it. It has no idea about how the views are getting recycled, how they're rendering, nothing. It just deals with the scrolling side.
And that's where I was going earlier about like the recycling of the views once they leave the like their side of the viewport.
Yeah. And funny enough, inside of that, there's a thing called a viewport, which is the viewport of the scrolling content. And this again is in every scrolling widget on Flutter. Okay. And then inside that, viewport's job is to render slivers of a scrolling panel. And then the slivers are how you specify the sections of scroll that you want to display. So in this case, we can use a sliver list sliver list. And then we put a sliver child builder delegate. And then this has a child count, which is our posts.length. And then we can put our builder in there. Now, what we've just created here is very roughly what we already had. Okay, so we're gonna fix this up with a few more parameters. So we want to pass our custom scroll over. The physics that we want to use. We could just use. We don't really care. Like let it do with the default because we're not.
Yeah, you can the default of the like the never scroll. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then the direction that we want to scroll in is down, and there should be another direction, if I remember rightly. And maybe thinking about the viewport in here. Yeah, down and anchor 0.5. Yeah, okay, that's fine. And we can do, I'll show you that in a minute. That's not good. That's not good. Right. So what we've now done, I've just restarted it. What we now got is exactly what we had before. Here's our list. And look, I can scroll it. It's building the widgets like before. And I can scroll it past the end. It's exactly what we had before, right? But now what we've done is we built it out the base widgets, right? Now, you see that you've got axis direction down twice. This is because the scrolling goes down, but we can build the widgets up. And this is what reverse true does.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like you're using up and down as opposed to either saying like vertical or horizontal, but it's because you want to control the direction of how you insert it and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And this you can see here. Now they're building upwards, right? So 0, 1 going upwards, right? And funny enough, I have an interesting thing here where my scroll direction is reversed at the moment.
You mess with the inner workings.
But if I do both up, that should resolve that, I believe. Yeah, there you go. Right. So, but you can actually do other things like actually have like, watch this. Hang on a minute. Left and right now control the scroller going up and down. Right.
But the up only controls the rendering of the items, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
You can make it all preferences. You can have preferences that say enable left-right scrolling for up and down.
Yeah.
And then map it to up maps to left, up maps to right.
So we've got anchor 0.5. Now this is like the offset from the center widget. Relative position to the 0 scroll offset. Yeah.
And this is like, for between 0 and 1, right? Isn't it? Or what are you saying? Like 0.5? Like, is it just?
Oh, sorry. So yeah, 0 and 1. So 1 is 100%.
Yeah, one is 100% of the exactly whatever the height of that is. Yeah.
Which would be the if you're trying right to left, it'd be the right hand side of the viewport, and 0 would be the left hand side of the viewport. So 0.5 is the center, right?
It's the center, exactly. That's what I assume. Like it's right in the middle.
And then the first child in growth direction forward the child after center will be placed in the axis direction relative to the center. Growth direction. Wait, I knew there was a two. I know there's two directional parameters, and I know I feel like I've missed something here. Growth direction. Are they just like? Is this just an axis direction? No, forward and reverse. Apply growth. It's generating that. There's a function. I think there's a function that generates that based on the axis direction. And it's going to be here something. Get default cross axis. It's going to bug the hell out of me now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's kind of like, I think. Yeah. Anyway, so this key must be a child in the viewport, right? So let's see what we can do here. Let's put in here child center is key, and we'll say posts 0. So see what we get. I thought that was going to happen.
Woohoo!
He says, let's run it again. I think it's because it's not a global key. I think it needs to be a global key. Yeah. All right. So hey, a minute. Slivers. Let's have a look. What does it say? I think this is because it couldn't find it, right? Follow assertion. Center is null, or slivers where child key. You basically couldn't find the child in the child key from the result of the slivers. Right. So he wants a key on the sliver list that matches. So we're gonna do this. We're not gonna use a builder. You can do this. I would just want to simplify this, right? Yeah, let's just do it a slightly different way. Sorry, everyone. I just want to get this out the door right now. We can revisit if we need to. We can go old-fashioned on this right now. Wrap this in there.
Does post have an overridden equals?
Doesn't need to. Well, so post is a string in this case.
Okay.
Let's get this right. Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, that's just annoying. We know we can rectify this. We can rectify this. So interesting enough, most people don't realize slivers. So a stateless widget and a stateful widget don't impose anything on the render object tree, and because of that, they can be used in place of slivers. So we can actually put that at the top level and not have a problem here. It's kind of annoying. I want to put the key up there.
Oh, we got a question. Slivers there are always built, but not necessarily rendered.
Correct. Well, no. Okay. Okay. No, this is complicated. Right. Okay. Right. So
good job, Verde.
I'd say yes.
Bring it back up. Let me explain.
Mm-hmm.
So like any widget, all widgets can be built during a build phase, but not all are displayed on the screen. Right now, in terms of the render box model and the sliver model, what happens is in the render box model, it will build those render objects to get them, even though they're not displayed on the screen as part of the paint, they'll be part of the layout phase and part of the other phase of rendering. Okay. Whereas in the sliver world, the sliver is not actually there. So when we put a sliver list in, it's the list itself. The items are not being generated yet until they're being requested for by part of the scroll process. So during scroll, it literally says, do I have enough content here to display something? Okay, generate, it'll call the builder function from the builder delegate and generate the widget that goes there. So there's an on-demand aspect to builders where there isn't in what I'm doing here. You can still use on-demand rendering, but it means doing some custom sliver work that is going to be out of scope for what we're doing right now. You can be done. You can also use sliver layout builder as well to your advantage here. I just like, we could go down the nth degree. I just don't want this to go too long, right? I got important stuff to do.
I want to have a business card that says custom sliver worker.
We're going to do final.
Because when you said custom sliver works, I was going, yeah, that's a profession, isn't
it? Right. Let's see. I mean, I'm just gonna get rid of this outside builder actually. Right. This, let's see what this does. Did it not do anything? It is great. Oh no, what have I done?
Oh no.
I popped it out. There we go. Oh.
Red screen.
Yeah, is it still going to give me the same problem? Yeah.
Why can't we get blue screens?
Oh no, I forgot to put it on the widget. That would be why. That would be explained. Right, let's try that again. All right, try that again. Yay! Okay.
Oh, we got something.
So, what's happening right now is our center widget, right? The one that we consider the center is post 0. Recognize that? Here. And then we're saying 0.5, which means the center of this widget is the center of the other one, right? So if I do 1.0 restart, it should be, yeah. Oh. So now it's down here off the bottom. That makes sense?
Zero.
Sorry, 0 put at the top.
Because it's the sliver, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, but this is where we're saying the anchor point is.
The anchor point, yeah. 0 is the top. When you say 1, it will push it one height, 1 unit down. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So far the same behavior as custom scroll view. Actually, yes, it is. However, I don't think you can play. We're probably going to be taking it a bit further than that. I actually can't remember if custom scroll view. At one point, it didn't let you play with anchors, and I think they added it. Yeah, they do actually. They have actually added it. I completely forgot about that. So we probably could have used a custom scroll view, to be fair, but these weren't in there originally. Wow, they've added a lot more to this now. Keyboard dismiss behavior.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, anchor depends on the direction as well. Yeah. This is what it says, and if you look at the docs, this is what it was saying when we were reading this earlier. This is what it's saying here, basically, right? Based on the axis of direction, it will mean a different place on the screen. Anyway, okay. So the point what we're trying to get to here is that, like, our center point might be post 5. You with me? So now you go up. That's in that direction. Does that kind of make sense? In the negative direction. So what we want to do is when we scroll and we stop, we want to record the index of where 0 is. We want to work out the ratio of where this position off from the top is and set that as these, and then reset the scroll offset to 0. Does that kind of make sense? Or we can, like, the problem is, let me explain what we're trying to achieve here. And it's hard to explain without a visual, and I'm not going to be doing anything annotation wise right now, but maybe we'll do this another time. Each time you add a new item to the list, it's gonna have, let's say it's I'm wondering if we can actually represent this a different way. So think about Twitter posts where you don't know how big the content card's going to be. That's the key to this whole problem. Because if you don't know how big it's going to be, it means you have to render it to work out the pixel height to then negate that off your scroll so you can keep at the same scroll position. That is not a tenable thing to do, because as the posts come in thick and fast, you might get 10,000 posts, 20,000 posts. Whilst you're still using the app, browsing down slowly, you want to still be able to scroll up to the eventual future posts. And that's what we're trying to solve. Like, how do you get to that point where, as new posts are being generated, how do you scroll to them without your scroll moving?
You're actually solving the doom scrolling effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here I'm on post. Let's say I'm on post. Say 17 here. At the moment, we could be, if I hit play, we're going to be generating new posts at the bottom. I'll flip this around in a minute on purpose, but we want new posts coming in at the top, right? And what's going to happen is, as new posts come in, it's going to move down the screen like this on us.
Right.
But do you want it to necessarily, you're at post 100, do you want the scroll to jump all the way at the top as new things come in, or you want to preserve the offset of the scroll offset while things get inserted at the top?
The problem is your terminology there. We don't want to possess the scroll offset. We want to scroll the visual representation.
Oh, I was thinking about preserving the offset. Oh, okay, so I was doing the wrong. Okay,
because that's the problem. Because that, as we preserve that scroll,
you want to preserve the visual state. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah,
right? As it's a pixel offset, what we're going to do,
it's
right?
True. It's true.
We have to calculate the pixel height of everything above to work out where we now are. So the key behind this is to don't care about what's off the screen because it hasn't been rendered yet.
Of course, yeah, you don't care about that.
And we just want to possess our position relative to the position of what we see on the screen.
Nice. Wow.
And that's the trick, right? So as you scroll, you're making a new relative position 0, resetting the scroll pixel position.
But you don't want to also preserve the slivers like as well.
They will be preserved. Like on the screen, they're always going to be rendered the same place.
Okay, gotcha.
Right, like this is the thing, right? Now, because they're keyed, they're going to be recycled and reused.
Yes, that's why I was hoping. Yes,
so that's not a problem.
Because that's why you put the key at the sliver level, but also you have the exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, this whole anchor center thing works off the viewport stuff and the way it renders slivers. So this is really quite efficient. However, obviously, it means that we need to have slivers for all the content that we need to at least display. This is kind of key, like, because you scroll, you can actually have a really clever system here where you rebuild and add slivers in. So for the next extent above, so you can actually just have the number of slivers in this viewport don't have to be the full amount that will ever be displayed, could be displayed. It just needs to be what would be displayed when you scroll. Does that? It's not that simple to explain. Just imagine this. Imagine that we've got a whole set of these cards on the left above the screen, right? Now we would just have the slivers for that one extra screen, and that's it. But in the feed, there's 10,000 items, right?
Yeah, but you could also do have just the ones above and the ones below. That way you keep it very efficient because you can have 10,000.
That's literally what I'm trying to get to. Sorry.
There you go. Okay.
And that you've only got the page of widgets above.
Above, yeah.
But you may have 10,000 posts in data, right? Not the widgets that represent those data items, right? In which case, as you scroll and then let go, you can then load in, or as you scroll even, you can just keep loading in new slivers.
As you scroll, that's how correct.
Right, that's the trick, right? This way you're keeping content coming in without.
That's what I'm saying. That's the doom scrolling. Like, oh, this is infinite. No, it's not like they're infinite and you're not seeing it. They're rendered below. It's like as you scroll, you kind of activate that.
Well, this is the problem. I think that, again, it's like that kind of thing. Like if you've got, let's say you've got 10,000 posts. How many kilobytes is it for a post? 100? 20 in memory? Well, that's suddenly 200 megabytes of RAM you just lost, right?
And that goes back.
Now you got to think, am I going to have 200 classes instantiated? 10,000 classes instantiated for all the widgets, and then they're going to have multiple widgets. So that's 50,000 because 5 widgets for each one. How about 100 widgets for each post? It just blows up in terms of memory usage. You can't.
Yeah, and right? this goes back to I think Luke's question where he's talking about allocator performance and multi-threaded environments and whatnot. Once you have a couple of thousand right there, you immediately start seeing the jank, and you start seeing the performance. That's why it is good to do what you're doing, but instead of adding for example, I would go with the sliver builder, the one that actually you can generate them on demand. But you still need to do those calculations like you mentioned.
Well, the thing, so we have to move it up a level. So we can do Sliver Builder, but then we can't do the center anchor stuff because
no, you can't. No, you can't.
So what we're doing here is we're still doing the sliver builder effect, but at the moment I'm building all posts. But I could actually set this range to be posts around the current index that I'm looking at. So like 10 posts above, 10 posts below, or whatever, so that I'm limiting in scope of what is visible. And then if you do it correctly with the cache extent, then it kind of will already preload those.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good
on screen as well.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah. I was gonna say yeah.
So the point here is that the automatically done for you by the key. So by maintaining the same key, you're maintaining the same. It will maintain the same positions and the same widgets. You don't have to remove any widgets because they'll get removed by the nature of the fact that the way that Flutter UI system works is declarative. If you don't declare it, it doesn't exist, so they'll get removed.
Exactly.
So we could do this to a we're going to try and do this to a lesser extent. Yeah. In it, let's see where we get to. So if I was to do, well, let's get.
I thought you were gonna do like a second part because this is gonna take you a little bit longer. I'm dropping out anyway.
Well, let's go.
What he said the last time.
15 minutes. 15 minutes.
I'll give you a minute.
Let's see what
I was really curious about this. Yeah.
Let's see what we can do in 15 minutes. So we can do two things here, right? Actually, you know what? Let's do this.
What?
You could.
Let's do this. Let's do this. Stateful. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, news feed list, news post list. Let's go that, whatever. And we're going to take out this scrollable thing.
Okay.
And pop it in here out of that. And news post list is going to get a list of posts or whatever. And what are we returning? It's a list of string, I think, posts. Yeah. Obviously, that could be post model objects with IDs and extra fields.
Keep it simple. Yeah.
Class. Yeah. Oops. Butterfingers. Fingers. Right. Yep. And then this is widget posts.
Same thing.
Controller, we can make that a requirement. Right. We're calling it a custom. At the moment, we're not really doing anything with the custom scroll control apart from overriding infinite bounds, just to make our development lives easier right this second. There are reasons you can do it one way or the other, and we can talk about that another time. Right. So I'm just like, I could have done extract widget, I guess. Yeah. No. Right. So just doing that to extract it out of this, right? Because this is the home screen. Now the state for scroll we can have as our index. Should we say origin index? It's our origin index. Now we in here we can, if we're getting past the controller, we can actually listen to the controller. There's another way of dealing with this, which is a bit more declarative, which we're going to try, which is what's called a notification widget.
You could do, you could use a notification widget and then just bubble up. And then just bubble up the. And this is actually one of the uses for the notification listener widget. Yep.
And most people don't actually use. I really find it like a shame that this is a built-in Flutter.
It's very like
it's so usable for setting events around your UI, and not many people use it.
Not many people use it. And actually, you know what? I discovered probably like a year ago, and I'm like, wait, this was here natively. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, this has been here all this time. I didn't know. Yeah, there's a widget for that.
There you go.
Let's say end scroll. Scroll ends. Oh, come on. What's it called? I'll scroll ahead. It is correct. So we want to work out new origin index right there. We are going to say if it's a scroll notification coming from inside, we're just going to say, I can't remember if true is the what we need to return. Oh, come on. Return true to cancel notification bubbling. Yes, that's what I want to do. So we're going to consume all scroll notifications from the inside of our tree. Probably not what you want to do in a production app, but I want to do it in here. Depends on how you're building your app. Because if you had a horizontal scrolling inside your vertical list, you probably want to bubble up the horizontal scrolls. Then in which case your conditions in here need to selectively choose exactly what scroll events you want to consume and what you want to leave to bubble up the tree for something else to consume. Right. And where are we? Yeah, so when we stop scrolling, we want to take we have our metrics. We do. Good question, Simon.
Wow.
Jeez.
What?
No, I was looking like all the things that there was like some really interesting properties that the drag details had. The metrics.
What? Metrics, yeah. You have all the.
Wow, that's a lot of cool.
This is what I was saying earlier, right? This is like you can see the extent half, extent before.
Whether it's at the edge, that I've consumed. I actually tried that, like where it's at the edge and stuff.
What I want to do is find out what widget is closest to the top of the viewport.
Mm-hmm.
And then effectively get or why don't we could do this as we scroll the widgets, the child widgets themselves report themselves.
You could do that, but you're gonna have to use the what's this class?
I need to reset every frame. That's kind of annoying.
Yeah, but I mean, remember, if you're gonna be for example, like if it's only whatever you're viewing,
let's find out. Let's figure it out.
It seems like you could get some useful information when you're building slightly off-screen widgets because your scroll extents up against the edge. Like that's where I put a hook for infinite forward scrolling, for example.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm trying to say. You can work out the position of a child render object relative to a parent with quite ease. What I kind of need to do then is if I need to get a hold of the widgets in here, I either need to locate the widget based on its key and then find its render object, or I need to
mapping from item,
or I need to just use global keys. Or I just use a set of global keys for the posts and like kind of just shortcut it, which I'm tempted to do. Global keys are not great to overuse. Just put that out there to everyone. Don't overuse them. Anyway, cool. Anyway, let's get this. Do we actually have this
this? Yeah, I was gonna say like if this has a way to like tap into the children, and then you can there it is. So for example, then you can get the render object, look at their position, and then do you still need to do like some like you need to capture, as they're rendered on the screen, you look at their position, see how far they are from the top, and then you can use the metrics properties.
So I can traverse the children
the children. Yeah, you have it already there.
Which is why I'm just going, because I only need to do this as once off when you end scrolling.
That's okay. You're only doing that calculation among those ones. Yeah, exactly.
I am tempted that what we could do is work out which one is closest to 0 and then use that. Anyway, we'll work it out. Let's do this.
But that's where I was going. Like I wanted to see if through the sliver you're able to access like the children that you have in there.
Well, let's get there here. So what I'm going to do first of all, I've got my global key. And we will find the render. The render. Well, actually, this is a box. I think.
I think it's a render box, but I thought I saw like render objects that you can like cast it to a render object and then capture the.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm looking for here.
Well, yeah, okay. The render view box.
Container parent base. Yeah, render box. I thought it was a render box.
There it is. Yeah.
Sliver physics container parent data is what I care about. So we'll say view. Let's call it viewport render box. Viewport dot current context dot find.
Yeah, that's the one that I use. I always use that. I always do the find render object, and then from there I get the then you get like all the coordinates and position and stuff.
Yeah, and then what we're going to do, you can actually, yeah, I'm not going to. I don't want to bring more into this thing right now.
There you go.
What am I doing? I want the children. Sounds like exactly what I want.
The children. We found the children.
Will this let me render object?
Yes, that would be cool.
It should be this. I need to cast it. What is it? What do they call the parameter in here? Child. Okay. Call this sliver equals child. All right. So we get our sliver, and we should be able to look at its parent data. So you get the parent data. So every child every child of a render object. So if we go into the render viewport here, it's not just this one, it's other ones. You can see here, it's given this parent data. This is basically the object which the parent uses to glue the two things together, the child to the parent. So in this case, sliver physical container parent data contains parent data mixing for a render sliver and extends this one, and this one has its paint offset,
the paint offset,
cross axis flex, and whatever other parameters that come through. In this case, parent data, this is the one that we care about, the paint offset. So we will find the one that's zero, closest to zero, the paint offset. So back. Right. So here we got parent data. And now we can look at the paint offset. And all we're doing is we're saying which one is, do I have render sliver first? Just because it's the first. Okay, let me be clear about this. We could just go get the first child of the render viewport and say that's the one, but that might be partially off the screen. It may not be the one that we're looking for. So what we want to do is work out what is the closest to zero in its painting offset on the y-axis in our case, right? So we're going to say found. We'll call it found child double min back.
Naming is hard.
And you only want to you only want to capture the y value. You don't want to capture the whole, like the whole offset. Yeah. This is all we're interested about. And then now out of that one.
So what we're going to say now is we can say
you're gonna get the okay.
Yeah. It shouldn't ever be null, but I'm just going to do that as a just in case. You get what we're doing there? So we go through all the children that are direct descendants. And
wow, that's so cool. Like that visit children was kind of like pretty much a for each on the children of the that's pretty cool.
The visitor pattern. Yeah. And there's not just visitor children on this, there's a few other ones across the element tree and the widget tree and everything, right? So when you get a render, when you get the, I think it's in current context. Hang on. context dot. Yeah, visit ancestor elements, visit child elements. That's one. Yeah. Anyway, right. So, right. Found child. So now we've got that child. What we want to do is update our controllers, our widget controller positions, pixel offset. Now, this will be interesting. We'll find out if we can actually set that correctly.
Yeah, but you're just gonna use. Okay. Are you gonna use that object's global position, like the?
I'm looking up origin index. Actually, I don't want to do that. I want to say post. So we're going to do the string origin post. I mean, this would be an ID or some other relationship, not index. To be clear, that was me being an idiot. So I say origin post. Now what we need to do is find out which post is attached to this. And we're going to do that. We can do that with the parent data. We could do a visit child widgets and put annotation. Yeah, let's do annotation. That's exactly what is annotated region. With a string. Why not? How do we use annotated region? I forget.
I've never used annotated region. This is my first time. Let me see. Oh, very cool. Look, it annotate. That's all it does. Annotates annotates part of the widget tree with a value. That's it. It's just like metadata, like additional metadata. That's pretty cool.
So this is interesting, right? So we can say find annotations that cover a particular local offset and only find the first. This actually might do exactly what we were just doing for us. This might be perfect.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about this. And this is actually exactly what I
got.
So
no.
Well, what?
Yeah. By the way, you can stop doing multiplication by doing repeated addition. We can actually use multiplication now too.
You're so funny. I'm just trying to remember like where the annotated region layer is actually being created, because I don't think we have to create one ourselves. I feel like there's
but if you just wrap, okay, so are you wrapping the sliver or every single item with the annotated region? I thought you were doing it at every item, that way we could just kind of like identify it.
Yes, no, that's the point. But the way that you find them,
got it. That's what I'm saying. You're annotating it, but now how you find it?
So based on how you find it, you're finding based on a local position in the layer.
You see, that's why I mentioned it earlier. So you want to use the local position. But you already have the widget. So
yeah, no, that's what I'm trying to like. We can actually put a. Hang on, I just need to know what render object is setting this up in the system, because we can already use this.
I see what you mean. I see.
Where's the usage of this?
Because that's how I always like try to like determine, okay, where's my widget? Like I usually, of course, fetch the render object, get the local position or the global position, depending on how I, in regards to what.
All right,
this annotated region layer.
I feel like I'm not looking at this right. Hang on. Up to annotate region. Let's go look at the render object. So render proxy box, layer handle, annotate region layer. So hey mate, it's creating its own layer.
Mm-hmm.
Annotate region layers are not retained because they do not need to create engine layers. Yeah. So the question here is, layer handle. No. How does one find annotated regions? That's what it says here, layer.find. How you use on how the value is retrieved. But this is not like a static. This needs to be
exactly. No,
this needs to be on a particular. This does not make sense. Come on. I'm getting to that point. I need to get food. Right.
Yeah. Okay. We hit the 2-hour mark. I mean,
and this,
are you guys staying a little longer? I gotta.
I'm gonna stay a little. I'm gonna.
Yeah, stay a little longer.
I have to get this done.
But see, these are the kind of sessions that I do.
This
love,
is turning into my white wire right this second.
That's pretty good. If anything, right. I'll rewatch the last part.
Search this
guys.
layer.
I'm dropping off. Take care, guys.
Search this layer and its subtree for annotations. What we want to do is find out where this is being called from. So when we render, yeah, every layer is going to have this. So we want to find the layer that we are in. That's it. This is simple. Okay, I see how this goes. Right. So we need to find our render box and we find out what the layer that it's in, and then we search that layer. Wait, did I just miss what Roman said? Did he say he had to go or something?
He said no. Yeah, he said he has to go. He went.
Oh, oops, sorry. Right. Layer. Place root layer.
I just asked Bar to give me details on annotated levels.
What does it say?
Study it later. I could read the whole thing to you. Let's see here.
Wow.
Primarily exposed to, let's see, no, you got all that, you know that. So you can attach a value, you can create a region, you retrieve it. It's commonly used for system overlays. That's interesting. So let's see, benefits of using annotated region for system overlays. It's not helping much. And it's a lot of text, so I don't want to read it all.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
How would I?
I just chucked it in Gemini. Let's see what it comes up with. Oh, it's making some code. I like that. Okay.
Yep. Here comes your intern helping you out.
Global key, annotate widget key, find render, which is what I was doing. Yeah, debug. We need to find that. This is literally what I was just doing.
Okay. Well then.
So I'm going to get rid of the our find in favor of the annotated region. But there was this. You need to find the layer, but I swear I was doing this. Oh. Right. So, okay, we need to basically what it's doing here is it's going up and traversing up until it finds a layer that contains the annotated region, but that's not actually what you need to do. So the code that's generated is wrong. But we just need to do this. Find.
Amazing.
And then we need to get the 0, 0. It'd always be offset 0, 0 here. Yeah. Offset 0. Oops. 0. And then we need the type of data that we're returning back, which in this case is a string. Obviously, you wouldn't use a string because it's too generic, but for our use case, it's fine. So we say final annotated post. Let's just see what happens. Let's print it off and then we'll see what we get. Yeah. This would be cool, right?
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Let's see.
Either going to work or it's going to fail.
Yeah, let's find out. Interesting enough, this wouldn't need to be a render box either. I feel like there should be a better way of getting this, but we can try it. Let's see what happens. Let's do that. Right. So we get our context, find the render object, get the layer, and then find the closest thing that's underneath that's annotated with this. So that should mean that it includes this post here. Let's find out. And then based on that, we want origin post to be our key. and only if origin post is not equal null. We did that. Otherwise, that's just to like account for the first render. Right. Well, it didn't crash, and it restarted successfully, so that's good.
It compiled. Ship it if it compiled.
So if I scroll and let go, ooh,
what did it do? Did it find the right thing?
Yes.
Oh man! Right. Oh my goodness! Oh, look at that!
Okay, so with this in mind, that's cool. I like that.
Whoa!
So now it should just be a case of doing set state with this, right? So we just say
I got to learn about annotated regions.
Origin post equals annotated posts.
You could use that for drag and drop too. I bet.
And then we need to work out based on so this is interesting. That's annoying.
What?
Anyway, so I just realized I don't want the actual annotation. I need to find annotations and get the annotation results. Find all annotations.
Is that where you get bounds and stuff? Metrics.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah. I need to basically. This is fine, but this is going to jump. Let's just try it. I think this will jump when I scroll. It should. Yeah. See that? It's just jumping when I scroll and let go, because we need to negate the scroll position based the remainder of the scroll position. It's just 2 seconds. It won't take too long. We'll get our result.
So you're effectively making it like a page view where it's going to jump to a boundary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
As
opposed to a smooth scroll view.
And then we'll call this layer. And then we'll say layer annotations for string into annotated result for offset 0. And then if annotate result entries is not empty, just in case, set state. Now first entry. So first entry should contain, there we go. This is the local position. Is that what I want? I think that's what I want, actually. How about that? Is that the position where it's found, the position where that element is? The target location described in the coordinate space of the annotated object.
Yeah, that's the
annotated object is found. All right, let's just find out. Let's print that. Well, we'll print it as well. Let's print and do some like stupid debugging. Found first entry. Oops. First entry dot annotation at first entry dot local position is what I understand it to mean. In which case we want our controllers position set pixels to be this, probably negative or something. Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah.
No, but maybe not. We'll find out. And then this should be first entry annotation. Right.
At least it'll be different.
Oops. Sorry?
At least it'll be different.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Let's see. Let's clear that. Scroll. And it broke. Yay. Okay. Interesting. We got it. I think the problem is that we're updating this during the actual scrolling happening itself. What we actually need to do is, once we find it, we need to do a schedule micro task, so it happens after the current flow.
Is that enough and not a frame paint?
Yeah, I mean, you rarely need to frame paint. Hey, that actually kind of worked. Yeah, I knew this was going to do this. Fuck. So you can't set this is the problem. So we're trying to set the position manually, and it won't let us do that directly on the scroll position. You can only do this when you're scrolling an activity. You can, however, do jump to, which is effectively telling it to start an activity of scrolling directly to the position without like animating, which is exactly the same thing, but not the internal mechanism. Set pixels the internal mechanism.
You're trying to jump to where you already are, basically.
Hey, look, it's not jumping now.
Right.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Oop.
Hey, Google.
Sorry. My phone wasn't face down. It needs to be down during this show. Otherwise,
no, but this is the key point. So if we look at these results, each time I scroll, see it's 27, 27, 27. My scroll position is staying at about 30 pixels.
Yeah, that's weird.
No, that's what I want. That's the whole point of doing this, right? Because now it's relative to the 0, 0 offset of my chart of the first widget. Right?
Oh, I get it. Right, it's the local offset.
So now our scroll pixel position is always relative to 0, 1, to the 0th entry, right? So now if we were to add items, right?
Right.
Then the idea being that is the pixel, we don't have to change our pixel scroll offset because it's not going to be changing.
Right.
Not in sense, but yeah.
All this to get just that one thing done. That's great.
Right, which we're going to do next week.
Okay. I'm good with that.
I will post this code right now so people can have a play around with it.
Or 2 weeks from now, actually. 2 weeks from now.
I may just do a live coding session.
You can't do the show without me. It's okay though.
Oh, boo-hoo.
I know.
Some people get to go to Google I/O.
I know.
Right. So yeah, let's this is actually, I like this. This is a really good strong start to this. Yeah, we could even control the scroll positions dynamically as well. So we can do we can get to an upper limit, but do it dynamically. Yeah, it's gonna be cool. Right. Cool. Let me whack the inner gist, and we can wrap up the show. Hope everyone's liking this. Like, I know it's not, I know we can only do so much live coding. We're trying to keep the shows to a reasonable length rather than going for 4 hours, which is great fun. Don't get me wrong, but we try to more regularly at smaller times, basically.
Right. So I'll see you all at Google I/O if you're going to be there, and if not, I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Well, actually, we're doing a live coding on Friday, I think. I think that's another vibe coding.
The vibe coding. There's a vibe coding. So on this very channel, make sure you subscribe, and you'll get the notification. And if you go look at the live feeds on the on YouTube, you should see that we get a what do you call it?
Notification.
Yeah, no, there's a live section. You can press receive a notification for the live vibe coding in terms of the time and date and everything. Right. Custom scrolling offsets. That's what we're going to call this.
Cool.
On the 14th of May, and our YouTube link is what? I've lost it. There it is. Create post. Just has been created.
Yay.
Right. Let me get that in the chat for everyone. Is it posting? There we go. So yeah, you can go grab the code we just worked on there and have a play. Hopefully learn something new today with various widgets and things. Fun time for all. We can definitely go into some meatier things with all of this in the coming week. we'll find a time to do another live coding session between now and then, and I'll have to find someone that isn't going to Google I/O to do the stream with me. But,
you'll find some.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, and don't forget, go grab your tickets for FlutterCon, FlutterCon USA, FlutterConUSA.dev. I'm going to better check that now. I think, yeah, FlutterConUSA.dev. And there's also going to be FlutterCon Europe in September in Berlin. Feel free to go get tickets for that as well, and you'll get them at the early bird prices. Right. See you same time, same place next week, I guess. Well, soon. And yeah, bye for now. Bye.